Hi, it's Penny here. So today we're going to be talking about all the books that I think I'm going to give 5 stars. And of course, when I've read all of these, I will check back in and let you know whether it actually worked out. In the past, I've never filmed one of these videos because I used to give out 5 stars so rarely. However, recently I've kind of rejigged how I use my rating scale and I'm a lot more generous with giving out 5 stars now. So I think that means I can actually have a good chance at predicting some. But I guess we'll see. I have 15 books to put on this list, 3 groups of 5. So firstly, we're going to start with some standalones. This was actually the hardest group to fill. So firstly, we have The Memory Theatre by Karen Tidbeck. I really loved Amatka by Karen Tidbeck so much that I bought a new copy. Like, if you know me, you know that's rare. I really loved this. It was so weird, and I think The Memory Theatre will be the same. It is about a world where there's a parallel world next to ours, which is kind of like a paradise, or at least for certain people it is, but for the slaves of that world, not so much. And then we're following some people who basically travel to this parallel world with some kind of hopes of living in paradise. I mean, really, I'm just hoping it will be as weird as Amatka. Then we have The Dream Daughter by Diane Chamberlain. So this one is one I've heard so many people rave about, but as well, it's got a time travel element, which I love time travel, so it's a good sign. It's something about a woman who is pregnant, but the unborn baby has some kind of health issues, and then her new brother-in-law suggests some kind of very strange solution, which is where I expect the time travel will come into things. I think it's one a lot of people recommend when they talk about the time traveler's wife, which isn't the best sign for me because even though I liked that, there were problematic elements to it, but still, I'm very hopeful for this one. So next we have The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wang. This is a well-loved book that was initially self-published. It's a fantasy book, I think where I'm not going to look up the synopsis for this one. I think it's where there are 2 empires at war and this woman in one actually came from the other one, but her son doesn't know, and now her son wants to join the army, like fighting against the other empire, and it's told from both the son and the mother's perspectives, and you learn a lot of like surprises along the way. This one, I've just heard so many people say great things about it, so I think that's a good sign. Then we have The Witch King by Martha Wells. So Martha Wells is the author of Murderbot, which I have not read, or that's slightly a lie. I've read the first chapter multiple times and then never got into it, but it's later on this list, so don't worry. And because of that, I am also excited to read The Witch King. From what I understand of the synopsis, basically there is this guy who's died and now his ghost has been like brought back and imprisoned so that someone can use his magic, and he's trying to figure out what's happened since he's died. It's an interesting premise, and I love the writing of Murderbot, so I'm very hopeful for this one. Then we have The Last Murder at the End of the World. This is one that's not actually going to be released until 2024, but I am excited by it. It's by Stuart Turton, who also wrote The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, or actually the copy on my shelf is an early copy where it was just The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I really love that one. I didn't so much love his second book that was released recently, The Devil in Dark Waters or something, but I do really like the sound of the synopsis of this one. So The Last Murder at the End of the World is something about like the whole world's been destroyed by this fog and these people just live on this island following the instructions of these 3 scientists. Then something happens and one of these scientists is murdered, and also like the security system is opened so that the fog can get in, and it wipes everybody's memories. And now they've only got like a limited time to figure out what happened with the scientist and who murdered them. But also, like, they don't remember things. So it could be that one of them is the murderer. In fact, it's very likely that one of them is the murderer. And I love the idea of like a murder mystery when nobody knows how they were involved. So I think it could be really cool. Okay, next we're going to have ones where it's series that I haven't started, but I think I'm going to love them. I'm putting the first books on as 5-star predictions, and then I guess after I've read them, I can decide how I feel about the rest of the series. The first one is actually one that I thought was a standalone until I looked up the synopsis and I realized there's a new book coming out soon or next year, so it's a series. Anyway, this is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. I have read the Book of the Ancestor series by Mark Lawrence, and I did like that. It wasn't necessarily a favorite, but I did like it. But The Book That Wouldn't Burn sounds like so much more magical. So it's about a boy who's been trapped in a library his whole life, and also a girl who has always lived in this desolate place that no one goes to, so both quite alone, both feel very ignored by the world, and then their stories come together in a way that has a bigger impact on the world or makes people pay attention. Again, this is one I've heard so many people raving about, so I'm very hopeful for it. Oh, then I have Murderbot by Martha Wells. Obviously, I mentioned this before. I've read the first chapter multiple times, and the only reason I have not continued is that it's on my Kindle, and I always forget about books on my Kindle when I'm making my TBRs, and so it keeps getting missed. Also, I was trying to get to series 0 and like catch up and complete all the series that I had in progress, and I'm pretty close to that now, so I feel like soon I can start some new series, and Murderbot is going to be very high on the list. Oh, I didn't say what Murderbot is about. So Murderbot is about basically this Murderbot, this robot that is supposed to be a killer and working in security detail, but honestly all this robot wants to do is just stay in their room and watch TV. Unfortunately, they do still have to do their job. So just the whole tone of it is wonderful, and Murderbot as a character is very relatable, and I'm really looking forward to getting into this series. Then we have Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir? I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, Gideon the Ninth is the first book in the Locked Tomb series. Tamsin Muir is a New Zealand author, and I always love reading New Zealand authors because I'm from New Zealand, if you didn't know. Or if you can't tell from my weird accent. Actually, I don't know how Kiwi my accent is, but regardless, that's a sidetrack. I actually picked up Gideon the Ninth recently when I only had my Kindle available to pick books from, and I read the first 4 chapters, and I really need to continue as soon as I can find some time because I really enjoyed it. It's about this woman named Gideon who has been raised in the 9th house. We don't really know what that is, and she doesn't really like it there. She wants to leave, but unfortunately the leader of the house has pulled her into this thing where she has to go to the capital maybe for this competition / opportunity. Honestly, 4 chapters in, don't really know what's going on, but I love the tone of it and I'm super excited to get into it. Then we have Infinity Gate by Emma Carey. So I have really loved everything that I've read by Emma Carey, and this one also has multiverse stuff in it, so that sounds perfect for me. Basically, it's about like this empire that is set up across multiple versions of Earth, and now there's some kind of AI threat against this parallel universe, multiverse Earth. I don't think that synopsis really gives you that much to go on, but I have faith in Emma Carey, so fingers crossed. And then lastly, we have Clean Sweep by Lona Andrews. So this is, I don't really know much about this. I've heard it's actually science fiction. Something about a woman running an inn where there's some kind of magical, possibly scientific type hijinks going on. I don't know. I love Alona Andrews. The Kate Daniels series is one of my favorites. I also read The Hidden Legacy by them. They are actually a husband and wife writing duo. I've read that. I also loved it. I just love the way that they create characters, and from everything I've heard, I think I'm going to love this one as well. Then lastly, I have 5 priority series that I picked recently when I went through my series shelf, my secret series shelf that I hadn't been talking about as part of series 0, and I read the first chapter of all of them, and then I picked out 5 that are like my priority reads. So I won't go into these as much because I do talk about them a lot in the other video if you want to check that out. But firstly, we have the Soldier Son trilogy by Robin Hobb. I love Robin Hobb, so even though I can see on Goodreads the average rating isn't as high as any of the Realm of the Elderlings, which is the main thing I've read by Robin Hobb, I have also read some short stories by them, and like Wizard of the Pigeons, I love it. So I kind of don't care that this has got low ratings. I'm just hoping I will love it anyway. I love the first chapter, so that's a good sign. Then we have A Declaration of the Rights of Magicians by H.G. Parry. H.G. Parry is another New Zealand author. But also, I really love the first few chapters of this one. I had to read a few to kind of get into it. It's kind of in this world where a lot of people are restricted from using magic, and also some people are enslaved using magic. It's only really the highborn that are allowed to use their magic freely. And there's a couple of lawyer type, politician type people who have some ideas. They're really passionate, in fact, about changing those laws. But we're also following a couple of characters who, well, actually, I don't really know who's going to be the main characters yet from what I read, but I expect those lawyer politicians will be, and also I think we're still going to get a lot of the perspective of these people who are really oppressed because of their magic use. and I'm excited for it. I think it's going to have some really interesting ideas in it. I also have The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I still haven't learned how to pronounce that. I am sorry. This is about a boy who gets taken by his father to this secret library, and he finds a book, and then he discovers that all the other copies of this book have been destroyed, and he's trying to figure out what's going on with it. The writing in this was absolutely beautiful, and I think it's just going to be like a really strange, magical one. So I'm excited for that. Then we have The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. Again, I don't really know what this is about. Some kind of really epic scale fantasy with battles between different empires, different kings maybe? I don't know, but I really enjoyed the first couple of chapters. Maybe I just read the first chapter. The only thing I'm a little bit afraid of is that it might be a little bit heavy on description, but again, I've heard lots of people hype this one, so a lot of hope. And then lastly, I have this one as a stand-in, but actually I need to read Ancillary Justice by Anne Leckie. This is a spin-off of that series. So Ancillary Justice is about this spaceship that has been trapped in the body of a human, and they're just trying to get by, basically, even though it becomes quite clear that being a human is a massive disadvantage compared to what they used to be able to do when they were a spaceship. And again, I just really loved the tone of that first chapter, and like I always like a really alien or outside perspective of like human nonsense and all the stupid things we do. So very hopeful for that one. Very hopeful for all these books. So let me know if you've read any of these. Do you think I'm actually going to like them? And also let me know some of your 5-star predictions. As I said, I will check in again when I've read all of these, and we will see how I went at predicting some 5 stars. Do subscribe if you would like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.